thinking about this holy grail of centralized services. Reducing headcount is nice and chunky when it comes to saving money. So the question that I have, I'm going to pitch this one to um, make sure I got my video orders right here. Pitch this one to Tyler. Um, what are the risks if you're talking to someone who is thinking about starting to make this transition to centralization? What do you have to think through?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, and when I say we, I've seen, centralized operations, in downtown Dallas, for instance. There was a company that owned, blocks and blocks of different buildings and different, properties, so to speak. But they had one centralization where they funneled, all the workflow. I know a lot of people have been doing that and perfecting it over the years, but I would say, you know, go at it with a lot of thought because it could easily get out of control, and you really have to iron out your operating flow uh, when it comes to going from point A to point B.
Other thoughts on centralization, when to make the jump, and what you should be thinking about when you're doing it?
Yeah, I'm actually coaching quite a few clients through this right now, and I actually have a centralized leasing peer group, who is a group of us in the industry, and we just meet on a somewhat regular basis to troubleshoot any part of centralized operations, whether it's on the leasing side, maintenance side, if you're starting at the corporate level with payroll. So if anyone wants to join that group, connect with me as well, and I can get you added to that. There's no sales or anything involved. It's just peers helping to solve. We're crowdsourcing this solutions for this issue. But I think that you don't have to centralize everything at once. I think we're seeing more on the leasing side starting to centralize because people are warming up to the idea of video and self-guided tours and the things that you need in place to help with that. But where I first saw it happening was actually on the service side, because again, we have staffing issues, so hard to keep staffing there. And so sharing your maintenance staff across different properties and units. Suzanne Hobson at TriCap, if anyone knows her, if not, I can introduce you to her. She was one of the first to do this, and they sort of did it before they were ready. So this is a little contradictory to what Tyler is saying, but Suzanne just said, listen, we know we need to move in this direction. We don't have it all figured out, but we know if we start moving, it will create more momentum. And so that's what she did. We presented on this at the AIM conference last year, and I had no idea how much this would blow up. This is how the peer group started, because so many people wanted to know how she did it.
Right.
One really cool thing that she did, so they are fully remote, and there are centralization looks different for every organization. There's not a standard definition for this. Yeah. So you really do, to Tyler's point, have to think through what you want or what you're trying to solve for. But in Suzanne's model, everyone is completely remote. They are not doing any in-person tours out on a property. So what it did is it took their leasing people, it took a lot of those day-to-day duties that aren't leasing duties off of them, finding packages, accepting rent checks, or just taking service requests. They are solely focused on the sales and technically marketing of that asset, but they work from home. They are Monday through Friday. So I cannot think of other leasing people who are working Monday through Friday, no weekends. I mean, if I had this 20 years ago, this would have been a dream job. And they're making, on average, she raised their salaries by about 70% now she did not lay anyone off. They naturally had some attrition. People didn't like the remote model, or underperformers that they just were able to finally move out. But because of that, and with the centralization, she raised payroll. They saved a little bit. They didn't save as much as I think what you would probably think overall, but that savings allowed her she just moved the money around essentially. But now she's paying her people. They have this great schedule, and they're making more than most people in the industry in a role like that. So now she's attracting the top talent, and they want to stay. And on the other side, because a big question we had was, well, what do the residents feel with us when you take people from off-site?
Right.
Do the residents miss that on-site presence? So they definitely had some change management there with those people. But I'm trying to remember the survey company they use. They use Kingsley or Satisfax or something, J. Turner maybe. But their renter satisfaction scores actually went up About 3 points.
Hmm.
So they've kept a pulse on that during this, as they've been working through centralized leasing. She's in now year 2 of this. And she'll tell you they didn't get everything right, and they're continuing to iterate on that. But everything's trending in the right direction. So I do think that is you have to start moving. If you aren't doing self-guided tours, if you aren't using video, if you aren't leading into smart locks, start somewhere.
Sure.
But it's a neat model, and we're seeing that the renters aren't necessarily minding it either. So win-win.
Awesome.